Oi, oi, it's your boy, the Davy Grant of saying things that others can't. Jack Slack, it's the Jack Slack podcast. Actually, it's the Jack Slack Boicast, and I am feeling very grateful to have listeners who bring me interesting questions. Because I was in a bit of a pity hole this week. I was looking at these fights going, I want to write something, I need to write something, I got the itch to write something. But I do not give a shit about Brendan Allen. And then I looked at the rest of this card. Originally I looked at this card and thought, oh, it's not terrible. And then I realized it's a Canadian card, so it's got to be sort of terrible. And then you look at the matchups and you're like, oh, that is sort of terrible, actually. And then I've got like 4 things that I'm sort of working on that I'm not in the mood to finish. So it was all getting a bit annoying. And then luckily I asked you guys if you had any questions for the podcast, and you brought me. I think I had 12 replies when I refreshed it immediately after posting it. So I've got more than 100 here now, and they always come in, more of them, while I'm recording the episodes. So sorry if you don't get yours answered, as always, but save it and bring it back later. Asithriel says, thoughts on John Pork? His Dana White Contender Series fight was great. He had some really interesting stance switch combinations. I actually watched this episode of the Contender Series because this one, and there was also a fight earlier on the card that was supposed to be a banger. Vologdin versus Martinetti. I think I got a question about that later, so I'll get into that. But you didn't tell me, people recommending this, that fucking Anthony Smith now has a commentary gig. He no longer lives in a cave under the analysis desk and then crawls out when some channels mercifully have ad breaks. They're letting him talk over fights, and you can hear him going into the microphone. But yeah, John Pork, Magomed Zainikov, he fought Lucas Caldash, a Brazilian lad, and I thought he looked really interesting and good, and fought a high-paced bout in a style that I thought would struggle to hold up over those rounds. Obviously, training partner of Islam Makhachev, that's how we all found out about him, and that's where the John Pork meme comes from. Makhachev said, this is Chanko, but it sounded like John Pork. This is another one of those ones which is funny just as a name, and then if you're one of those people, you could be like, hang on, he's a Muslim, is that racist? And it's like, no, it's just a funny name. The idea of someone being called John Pork. But he has asked people to stop calling him that. I call him Chanko because that's easier. His mama call him John Pork. I'm going to call him John Pork. I call him Chanko because that's easier. But I do wonder how his style holds up in that camp when so much of it, he's switching constantly and right in front of the guy in sort of marching in and out combinations. So like he'll start orthodox, step back with a right hook and then throw a left leg. Stuff like that, where his hips are often square right in front of the guy, and he's not square low, not low ready to receive a shot. He's square high, like run through that guy in the traditional upright stance with an easy takedown. So I wonder how it holds up in camp, and I wonder how he fights differently or spars differently in camp with that team full of strong wrestlers. I've been looking at Makhachev for my JDM article or just generally getting ready for that. And I was looking at him going, his takedowns are so much more varied and interesting than a lot of guys on that team. You watch Usman and Umar, and a lot of what they do is just dive on reactive double legs. Partly because they've convinced themselves that they're like, they're strikers, and the takedowns are just there to make sure the other guy can't strike back. But it seems like a few of those guys from that team now are just like a reactive double, where Makhachev is very much a rounded game full of lots of different takedown attempts and techniques. I'll tell you how you beat Chanko. I was about to say how I'd beat Chanko. I would not beat Chanko, but I'll tell you how I would like to see someone fight him. The 2 times that he's really vulnerable, well, there's several times he's very vulnerable, but squaring up, coming in, and blading himself into a long stance on the retreat to set up a rear leg body kick or a rear leg knee. So I'd say operate a game plan where you don't try and drive the super high pace. You try and do the Machida thing of, back off, back off, back off. Get him marching through on some stuff and then hammer him with either a big overhand counter or an elbow. He stepped onto a few elbows in this one. But when guys want to show you a ton of variety, and they want to shift all the time. The more you can draw that out, the better. Let him show you all his snazzy combinations. Because he either starts recycling them or he starts doing weird shit that he hasn't practiced. Just lunges onto you. And the other one is to use... I know I'm always saying double jab. I haven't in a while, actually, but to use the double jab or bullshit straights. Like I said, I'd like to see Pereira use against Ankalaev. Long straights with no intention of connecting, really. Use those to back him up. Because normally he backs up and he switches stance. Whichever stance he's on, he backs up and switches stance and throws a counter. So back him up while staying a safe distance, and then try and body kick him or low kick him with the rear leg, whichever he's switched into. So if he's orthodox and you're orthodox, you double jab, he steps back into southpaw, you body kick him with your right leg. If he's southpaw and you're orthodox, you double jab him, he moves back into orthodox, you low kick him with your right leg. So I think those two things could be very useful against Chanko, but I liked him. I liked his style a lot.